Hello everybody, bit of an unorthodox setup, I know, excuse me, but I'm going to get started. I've got some sponges, these are only cheap ones though, but I've got these, there's 20 of them, because I am still going to apply using a sponge, but also there is a lot of varnishing that's going to need to be done, so I figured I might as well just get a load of sponges. I've got a cloth because what I'm going to do, I am going to do this slightly differently to how I varnished the cabinet. With the cabinet I was trying to be very sort of precise, whereas with this, because it's all the wood separated, what I'm going to do is basically apply quite a bit, but then just wipe off the excess. So I'm going to go for that approach, well, not necessarily apply quite a bit, but I'm going to apply a decent amount, but I am going to wipe it off, the excess off with a cloth, and see how that goes. Now I have got myself, also I was going to say I've got myself something, but I haven't. I've got myself all set up, I think, but I noticed that I'd got a gloss deep mahogany, but I'd also got a gloss dark oak. And what I did was I compared the colours on the tins with the worktop that this is actually going to sit on, and the dark oak looked right, but interestingly, I thought it was white in here, but it's not. It's kind of golden. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show that properly, but yeah, it kind of looks almost like a pea soup at the moment. But obviously I do need to give it a good stir. Now with varnish, don't shake it. With varnish you do not want any air bubbles getting in it. So stir it rather than shake it. Now obviously this is the first time for me using, I can think of using the gloss finish, so I'm not exactly sure how it's going to look, and also looking at the colour of this, I've no idea how it's going to come out, but at least if I think it's not dark enough, I would be able to use the deep mahogany instead. Whereas if I use the deep mahogany, I can't revert, I'd have to take it off, and that would be a nightmare. Okay, I'll move my e-cig out of the way, of which I will admit I have been using less and less of. I'm now on no nicotine, and I've found myself every now and again happening to have gone through a few days, well not a few days, but like for example when I was doing all the sanding of this, which took a long time, I hardly ever use my e-cig, which is unusual for me. Okay, I'll put my stirrer to one side, and I'm also going to move these for the moment. I want to give myself a bit of room, do one at a time. And now I did check over these yesterday as well for whether there was any bits that I'd need to do any repairs on, and to be honest, there wasn't really. I mean, this has got one little crack in it, but it's not going to be a problem. Also, that piece is going to be around the back. Okay, so this is the side that will be on show. Now, like I said, I have no idea how this is going to sort of look colour-wise, but we will find out, won't we? So here goes. it is a bit of an interesting colour now. As much, even though I said yes, I need to sort of apply it quite a bit. I need to try and make sure I'm not splashing. I don't think I've applied anywhere near enough. It doesn't have a lot of colour on it, which is quite interesting. Now what will be interesting is to see what it would be like once it's dried. Now something I am sort of going to have to do as well is I'm not going to be able to do all four sides of this at the same time because of laying it down. I suppose I could try, as long as I lay it down on its back, but I'm not sure which of these pillars are on the back and which are the front at the moment, so yeah, a bit difficult to do, so I'll probably just do two sides. So it's given it a bit of colour. I must admit I was expecting it to be a bit darker than it is, but it may be a case of, because I have sanded the wood quite a lot, it may be a case that it's going to really soak a lot of it's going to soak a lot in. Now I'm not going to do the ends until I've actually varnished all four sides, because at least then it gives me the option to touch the ends. And I was thinking a bit last night about possibly making myself a tool because of being in this situation, and I've not been able to find a tool like what I'm thinking about. I mean, they probably do exist, but I don't know what they'd be called. Basically, I'm sort of thinking something along the lines that's got a spike at either end, so they could like spike into there but lift it up, so this could then be pivoted, it could be rolled. So basically I'd be able to varnish the top and then just spin it a bit and keep going. But yeah, I don't know what it'd be called, although it could be called a spit, not a spit roast, although it would be the same thing. I've got to admit though, I'm not sure if I'm convinced with the colour of this. I mean, maybe I'm not applying enough, maybe it just needs more coats, but I expected it to be, I didn't expect it to be darker. But I mean, okay, I'm looking at that is a bit, it looks a bit yellowy. It's definitely interesting. Well, I say interesting. It's definitely different to what I was used to, because obviously with the deep mahogany, it was very red. I need to make sure that I do get a bit of varnish in the screw holes. I don't want any sort of light bits of the wood showing when it doesn't need to. I must admit, I went to try and do a little bit of extra food shopping earlier. Not lots, just a little bit. Farm food now, not only car park full, all tin food gone, almost out, all frozen food as well. It's fucking ridiculous. And when I was in the queue, the lady in front of me, and buying 24 tins of baked beans, and what was it, about 24 tins of tuna. So no wonder we're at a fucking loo roll crisis. You imagine what the fucking gas is going to be like in that ass? Jesus Christ. Baked beans and tuna. That's an explosive combination. Also, it is a very odd colour, this. I mean, it's almost like a clear varnish. I've got to admit, I don't know if I'm convinced with this at the moment. I mean, I want this to be darkish, and I'm not sure if this is gonna do it, if I'm honest. I mean, when you look at the colour it's meant to be on the front, just there, I mean, that's a nice brown. This isn't at the moment, but so maybe it will get there. Right, I've not done both sides yet. Now, what I've decided I'm going to do as well is basically the whole shelving unit is in pieces. It's in sections, like pillars and shelves. And what I decided I was going to do was basically varnish each of the bits differently to what I did with the cabinet. So instead of like putting one coat on this and then putting a coat on a set of shelves and moving on to the next set, I'm basically going to varnish these until they're done. Although what I am thinking of doing is, yes, varnishing these till they're done, but we should say staining these until they're done. And I was thinking about putting a clear varnish on, with it all built and complete, but I'm actually thinking for ease I will clear varnish while doing pieces like this. Now I know that this wood isn't oak, it's pine, I think, but I still would have expected it to come up darker. We'll see what happens when well, I wouldn't say it comes to applying the second coat, which is true, but I'm going to have to obviously do the two sides of these that haven't been done yet. Also, I'm kind of trying to apply quite a lot, but it doesn't seem as liquidy as the deep mahogany did. Either that or the wood is really just soaking up. Now, with the sanding that I did on it, I did leave it as a sort of a little bit of a rough sanding, which basically should mean that the wood is a little bit open, so it should be willing to soak in a bit of the treatment. Tell I'm using a cheap sponge because it's soaking through quite quickly, but I'm not worried, it's more about application rather than quality at the moment. Put a bit much on there. And I've still got some of my foam paint brushes in which are over there, not many of them, but I figured I'd hold on to them in case I did decide to clear coat in situ or built, because if I do that I may need a bit more precision, which they will give. And you might notice as well, I'm not being as precise or I suppose cautious with these coats at the moment, but that's because of how I'm approaching this project. These just need the coats applying at the moment. Right, on to the last one for the moment. I mean, obviously I can tell on the camera there is a definite difference. Maybe it's just the light that I've got, that they do look sort of very yellowy. But I must admit, with all the coronavirus stuff going on, it's nice to be able to have this to take my mind off things. And I would recommend to people, if they're struggling, to find something that they can do. Doesn't matter what it is, whether it be putting together jigsaws or doing dot to dots, whatever it might be. Find something that you can just get on with and ignore everything else. Because we all need that now and again, especially at times like this. Right. So I am definitely interested to see what the second coat will look like, because if this first coat sort of soaks in and seals, allowing the next coats to kind of sit on top of it, it should do wonders for the colour. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Now, I mean, I know I mentioned that I would be applying this and then wiping off the excess. Literally, there's been no excess. So either I'm being very sparing, or the wood is really soaking it in. And I mean, with it being pine, from my experience, this type of wood does soak up stuff. If it's not sealed or treated, it does soak up fluid. Is that? Yes, I did do the side. Now, admittedly, I could do the other side, but I'm not going to bother now. Let's see. I mean, is that drying off? See, that's pretty much dry already. Right, so that can be turned over, and I can do its other sides. I mean, what's that taken? 20 minutes? Oh yeah. So that's not too bad then. I mean, okay, probably an hour for a second coat, but I suppose with me not applying it a stupid amount, it's going to soak in and dry quicker. Also, it's a lot warmer here than it is in my dad's workshop, so varnishes and stuff like should dry much quicker and much smoother, hopefully. Now, I think, I've not mentioned it on this video yet because, to be honest, I've forgotten. But before I came on to do this today, I was doing a bit of live streaming on my PlayStation, and while I was doing that, I got a text message from my dad saying, thank you for the sawdust, and have I taken a table? And to be fair, yes and yes, really. The amount of sawdust that was left from sanding all this was fucking disgusting, really. I managed to clean some of it up, but I was so exhausted and broken by the time I'd finished finished the sanding, that there was not a lot I could do. I was pretty much ready to shut down, and to be honest, I'm still suffering now 3 days later, big time. But yeah, I did leave him a bit of sawdust, and I'm going to try and pop that over here because I want to do the ends. I just need to make sure I don't get it on my curtains or put way too much on, because it's a bit of an awkward position. I mean, I must admit, it is a bit weird doing this stuff here at my apartment, but at the same time, like I said, it's quite nice because I can do it when I want, if I'm hurting too much. I mean, there's no reason I have to rush on this. Should have worn gloves. Oh, you know, varnish on my fingers. I can imagine that this is not particularly riveting to watch, but I don't know. Maybe with everything that's going on at the minute, it's the most exciting thing you've got to watch. You know, I actually put a bit more on them than I had done previously. Had a bit of excess to move. I'm trying very hard to not see this as the colour of someone's pissed on it. I mean, it is so different to applying the deep mahogany. I suppose when I think about it, right, applying the deep mahogany, the first coat always looked very red or very pinkish, very thin and pinkish. It wasn't until coats 2 and 3 went on that really the wood popped. It looked very different. So I would guess that this is going to be very similar. I suppose as well, at some point I should probably actually show where this is going to be going before I put it in place. I've also I've used LED lighting in my apartment around something I've previously built, and I had some leftover light, strip light, but no power supply for it, no USB connection. I've now got one of them, so I'm going to be able to put a little bit of LED lighting on this as well, which should hopefully make it pop a little bit as well. but I need to make sure I put that in the right place, because if I put it in the wrong place, the light strip will be visible and in my face, or in anyone's face that looks at it, and that's not the idea. The light should be hidden, making it backlit. See, it's applying quite nicely. Or maybe I know with the cabinet, when I started on that, I was very cautious. I was fearful, maybe concerned, worried about applying the stain, in case I put too much on or it ended up streaky. And I guess, like with many things, the best thing you can do is, well, if you approach it with confidence, even if you fuck it up, you'll fuck it up confidently. Oh, and interestingly as well, I know on my previous video I mentioned about my dad commenting about the cabinet and him being very pleased with it. He did confirm to me that he did buy it 50 years ago for a £5. So that's how old that cabinet was, and hopefully now it'll last another 50 years. I mean, it should do. But I'm guessing my brother Martin, who started that as well, I'm pretty sure he must be happy with it, because when I was at the parents the other day and they'd been there, all the handles were turned up, and that's the kind of thing Martin would do. So, right. Think about it, you know, there is something that I haven't done with the manufacturing stage of this, and that is I haven't made anything to go on the side of this shelving unit. I know previously I talked about the possibility of putting cladding on it, which I'm not convinced about. So I think at some point I'll probably just get a few little wooden strips just to put a little barrier on the end. What I'm thinking is, if I actually clad it and then close it all, it'll make it all very dark. Whereas I want light to be able to be from behind and get around it, if that makes any sense. And one thing I will say as well is that while applying this, even through the sponge, I can feel that the wood has not had a real smooth sanding on it, which I'm not worried about, but it is interesting that I can feel it. So even though, I mean, I did sand it quite smooth, it was noticeably smooth, it is still noticeably rougher than what will be the finished piece. Now, something that I still haven't quite decided yet is whether, for the pieces or bits that may need a little bit of repair, I haven't decided whether I'm going to be using wax to fill any gaps, or using wood dust and glue, or sawdust and glue. I'm leaning towards sawdust and glue, mainly because of how much of a ball ache the fucking wax was. Fingers look horrible. Don't ask where they've been. What I will say though is, obviously I've got quite a bit of varnish on my fingers there, and the colour is quite a lot deeper than what I'm seeing there, so I do think it'll layer up quite nicely, I reckon. Oh, right. And even though I am sort of applying this kind of roughly, I am still going with the grain, always. Okay, so nearly coat number 1 done. Now admittedly, when I come to do the other bits, the shelves, I am going to have to take all the shelves apart. I'm going to do that one at a time, but I am going to have to take them all apart, stain them all, varnish them all, and put them back together again, which is going to be a little time consuming and a little bit of a ball ache, but it should hopefully result in a better finish, because whereas like if these two pieces would have stuck together and then stained and varnished, there would be parts of the wood that would be considerably whiter, lighter, and it could look a lot worse. So I'm betting on a better quality of finish by taking the time of taking everything apart. But we'll get to that at those times. Right, well that's coat number 1 done, and what I'm going to do is leave them for a little while and see how they get on, and we'll come back for coat 2 in a bit, I reckon. I mean, with these being here, there is the possibility that I could get 2 or 3 coats done in a day on these, but I'm not in any rush, so we'll see what happens. But what I will try and do is perhaps with the videos, whereas previously my videos were sort of on a day, these may be over the course of a couple of days, so I'll probably do it like one video will be about the pillars, and then another one about one of the shelves, another one about one of the other shelves, and so on. But we'll see. Anyway, right, that's me done for now. I'll see you in a bit.